iSTAND from the University of British Columbia, Okanagan, presents Neuroscience, How to Excite a Nerve. To understand how nerves send and receive messages, we first need to look at the structure of our nervous system. Here is the posterior view, or the backside of a human body. You can see that the nervous system spans throughout the entire body. You have a central nervous system and a peripheral nervous system. The spinal cord is part of your central nervous system. It is protected by the vertebrae of your spinal column, which has a total of 33 bones. Let's take a closer look at our nervous system. Here is a piece of the spinal cord. The spinal nerves that project off the spinal cord are part of our peripheral nervous system. If we were to look inside our spinal nerve, we would see blood vessels and bundles of nerve cells called fascicles. If we take a closer look at inside a fascicle, we'll see myelinated nerve cells and unmyelinated nerve cells. Now let's take a closer look at a nerve cell. The dendrites of the nerve cell are what receive stimulus from other nerve cells or receptors in our body, such as a pain receptor or stretch receptor. The cell body of the nerve cell contains the nucleus. Other types of nerve cells have the cell body in different locations. The axon hillock is located at the start of the axon. If a nerve cell is myelinated, it will have myelin down the length of the axon. Myelin acts as an insulator, just like the rubber found around electrical wires. The space between two myelin sheaths is called the node of Ranvier. The axon terminal is located at the end of the axon. So how does a nerve cell send a message? Remember, nerves are like the wires in our walls. They conduct electricity. But how do they do this? Charged particles called ions, such as the potassium ion, sodium ion, and calcium ion, are important for nerve function. Ions move into and out of the nerve cell through voltage-gated ion channels. The amount of ions inside the nerve cell compared to outside of the nerve cell is what causes the electrical message to occur. In order to send an electrical message, first, a nerve cell has to be excited by a stimulus. The stimulus has to be great enough that it generates action potential, which will propagate down or travel down the axon to the axon terminal. The action potential is the electrical message. It is measured in millivolts. An action potential follows the all-or-nothing principle, meaning if the stimulus was great enough, it will fire no matter what. See how the action potential travels down the axon? The concentration of the ions changes. Do you think a myelinated nerve cell or an unmyelinated nerve cell will be able to propagate the electrical message faster? Let's find out. The myelinated cell was able to propagate the electrical message faster. This is due to the myelin's insulatory property. That's why the action potential appears to jump down the axon. Once the action potential has reached the axon terminal, it can be transmitted to another nerve cell or some other tissue like muscle. Did you notice how the electrical message only traveled from one end of the nerve cell to the other end of the nerve cell? Which makes a nerve cell like a one-way street. You can only go in one direction. Nerves are different because remember how they had bundles of nerve cells inside the fascicles? This makes a nerve more like a two-way street. It will be able to send electrical messages to the spinal cord or brain and receive electrical messages from the spinal cord or brain, or do both at the same time. Thank you for joining iSTAND Neuroscience, How to Excite a Nerve.